Hi, this is Jim from survivalweekly.com. We're going to do a Stumpless Stump review today. Stump reviews traditionally were reviews of books, magazines, things like that were done kind of off the cuff, literally on a stump. You put the magazine on a stump and page through it and talk about it. Given that in my part of the world right now, I would have to bathe in DEET if I wanted to spend a lengthy amount of time out in the woods, I decided we're going to do a stumpless stump review and just sit down at a table or a desk and page through the magazine. Today we're going to talk about the current issue of Survivor's Edge magazine. This is the fall 2017 issue. It's been out on stands for a couple of weeks. I really like Survivor's Edge. It comes out just like 4, maybe 5 times a year, something like that. I like it because they pack a lot of information into very small, easily digestible bites. There's a ton of articles in every issue. Many of them are kind of short and sweet. You know, they'll do quick and dirty product reviews. But there's also several articles in every issue that are very in-depth and really give you a good sense of the topic, and they're very informative, and it's really worth picking up. In this issue, I'm going to highlight several of the articles that I particularly liked. There's no way I'm going to go through and talk about every single article in here because neither one of us have that kind of time. The first article that we're going to talk about is Build a Modern Day Safe House by J. Wayne Fears. This is really a great overview of what to take into account when you're choosing to build a home. Many of the things in here are also applicable, you know, if you're looking to just buy an existing home or doing remodeling, things like that. But basically, the way the author approached this was, you know, let's build it from the ground up. He talks about location, he talks about safe rooms, he talks about backup power sources, talks about security systems, food storage, just a really great overview of these topics to give you an idea of what to think about when it comes time to build a home or remodel your existing home or just buy a home. Really some great information. Next up, we have 24/7 Digital Watchdogs by Terrell Hoffman. In this article, they talk about using trail cams or game cameras for security purposes. Now, admittedly, when we're into the prepper and survivalist mindset, you know, we tend to think about, oh my God, the grid's down, we're not going to have electrical power, things like that. But as a practical matter, we need to be thinking about today as well as in the future. And right now, today, game cameras or trail cameras are great tools to have for security purposes. He goes through and talks about some different options for cameras, tips and suggestions on how to use them properly, where to place them, what to look for when buying them, all kinds of great stuff. I'm really a fan of the wireless security camera idea and being able to remote view using your cell phone and that. I think it's a wonderful tool and something we should really consider implementing at any level of your preparedness plan. Next up, we have Escaping Hellfire on Earth by Art Merrill. If you live in a part of the country where wildfires are a risk, this is the article for you. They talk about all the different preps that you should have in place for wildfires, different risk factors, how to determine if you're in an area that might be prone to wildfires, and basically, if that's a risk for you, what to do about it. Next, we have 12 Survivors by Phil Elmore. 12 Survivors is a brand that's been around for a few years now, and many of you are probably familiar with them. If not having purchased their products, I'm sure you've seen their ads in different magazines and that. 12 Survivors are really doing some pretty cool stuff. They're coming up with some innovative tools, and in this article, they talk about a little bit about the company itself, and then they highlight some of their really innovative and cool products like the mini first aid roll-up kit, solar flare, which is their portable solar panel charger. The mini bug out box, which I'm really curious about. I'm going to have to see if I can check that out myself. I like that idea. Water filters, all that kind of stuff. I like 12 Survivors. I'm not familiar with their products yet, but I like their approach to the topic. And I'm curious about them. This article really kind of highlighted that for me, that I need to check them out. EMP Strike Prep by Frank Jardim. I'm going to tell you something. I've been at this a long time. This is hands down one of the most concise and one of the best overviews I've ever seen on the threat of high altitude electromagnetic pulse. Frank goes through, he talks about the anatomy of the EMP, the different waves, talks about realistically what we can expect if an EMP were to hit, the different things it's going to impact in our world, in our society. It's no nonsense, it's not scare tactics, this is real world stuff. And I really, if there's only one article in here that I think everybody should absolutely must read, it would be this one. Then the last one I'm going to talk about is Wild Chow by Karen Hood. Karen Hood is very well known to those of us who have been at this for a while. She knows her stuff. She's very highly respected. In this article, she talks about 8 different very common wild edibles. You can find these just about anywhere, from cattails to thistle, stinging nettle, dandelions, all this kind of stuff that we see all over the place, all over the country. And not only does she talk about how to recognize them, but how to use them properly. And that's something I often find lacking when the discussion of wild edibles comes up, particularly in a magazine or a short book. It's being able to identify them is one thing. Knowing how to use them properly is quite another. It's just like any other type of food. You can go to the grocery store and buy a certain cut of meat, but if you don't know how to prepare it properly, it's not going to be really great. Wild edibles are the same way. Knowing how to eat them, how to prepare them properly, so you not only get a good flavor, but you preserve the nutrients that are there to keep you alive. That's important, and that's what she talks about in here. This was the fall 2017 issue of Survivor's Edge magazine. Like I said, there's a ton of other articles in here. The table of contents runs 2 pages. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of them. There's a lot of great information in here. The highlight for me was the EMP article by Frank Jardim. And I really like the Modern Day Safe House by Jane Wayne Fears. I think both of those are very, very well written. Ton of other great information in here. It's out on newsstands now with a cover price of $9.95. I've seen it at Walmart. I've seen it at Barnes & Noble. I've seen it at different grocery stores. You can find it anywhere. I believe that there is a subscription option as well. In the comments, I'm going to put links to the Survivor's Edge website, Athlon Outdoors, which is the publisher, so you guys can check it out. Again, this was Jim Cobb from SurvivalWeekly.com doing a Stumpless Stump review of Survivor's Edge Fall 2017.